Let's go to a couple of other issues I want to touch on here. The climate targets, I mentioned them at the top of the show. Financial Review says we're not going to meet them. We're only growing our renewable power generation about half the rate needed to meet this 2030 target, Gab. But it's also worth noting that more than half of our electricity right now in this country still comes from coal.
That's right, around 53% of the nation's electricity is still coming from coal. So at this point, it is very hard to see how Labor is going to meet its 2030 emissions reduction target. We know with this new analysis that renewable energy has grown at half the rate required to meet Labor's target. And so for Labor to meet its target, it will need to triple the rate of decline in coal power. So here we are halfway through 2025. We're relying more on coal and less on renewables than expected. And part of the Paris Climate Agreement, Australia has agreed to release around 4,000 million tonnes of carbon between 2021 and 2030. So we are essentially eating into that budget. We are not at all on track. We're well behind. And ultimately, we need some transparency from the government here and some honesty that we're not going to be reaching this target. And Peter, this comes as Australians are forking out more for their energy bills during a cost of living crisis.
Look, last night I was pretty tough on Paul Cameron over this suggestion by the Chinese that AI, artificial intelligence, should be on the table in trade negotiations. They want to enter our systems in Australia. I think it would be crazy to let that happen, but I'm not the only one. Here's David Littleproud.
You look at what's happened with solar panels and batteries. If we do that with AI with China, that has potentially the capacity to lock us in even closer and to rely even more on Chinese supply chains.
I tell you what, Terry, there were all these clowns that said Huawei should be the underpinning of our 5G network. But we're all happy that didn't happen now. But this is the new battlefront. Now, Prime Minister's on his way to Beijing. He loves to bow and scrape with the Chinese. I hope we don't go down this path.
Well, I certainly don't hope he kowtows on this one, actually, Peter, because I really do think that, as you say, artificial intelligence is the next battlefront. I mean, the hostile powers or potentially hostile powers that know how to use AI can actually potentially destroy economies, destroy communications, destroy armed forces. We just can't risk this. And in terms of the Chinese wanting to put digital technology on the table in terms of trade talks, I mean, it's basically trying to overturn decisions like Huawei and ensuring that Chinese have an end to our communications networks. I mean, our vital communications networks, we're talking about national security. I think the Prime Minister has really got to actually show a bit of backbone here and actually stand up to Xi Jinping and actually say very forcefully, you'll be saying to the Americans that, butt out of our defence spending, defence decision-making, butt out China out of our communications decision-making and stay away from Australia's communications network.
And I think we've got a resilient cyber system here in Australia. Listen to this report from the Auditor-General in New South Wales that says that less than 2/3 of the government departments there, they don't even have the basic and mandatory, so they're not even meeting the requirements in terms of cyber protection. The Premier was pushed about this. Let's have a listen.
Look, it is a concern, I'm going to be honest. I would like to see us meet all the criteria immediately that the Auditor-General identified. That's not possible though. I mean, most of the funding for cybersecurity in New South Wales had been cut or put on a funding cliff by the previous government.
I mean, come on, mate, you're 2/3 behind. This is not a little bit here. You're 2/3 behind your mandatory requirements. And I'm sick of the excuses. I mean, it is just not good enough when you think, Gab, of all of our private information that government makes us give them, it's all at risk.
Absolutely. All that information, all that sensitive private information. Peter, I'm just as shocked as you are about this, and I'm just as shocked to hear that response from the Premier. I mean, what country are we living in and what decade are we living in? This report is absolutely shocking. Around 70% of New South Wales government agencies do not have the basic protection. So we're not talking about the most sophisticated protections here. These are just the most basic ones. And let's look into it. Most departments department and government agencies are operating on computer systems from 2008 and would have no idea if they had been breached. And we are learning about this as cyber attacks are on the rise, as hackers are carrying out more sophisticated attacks. This, of course, comes after Qantas had its cyber attack last week with 6 million customers compromised. But any organisation that wants to take itself seriously is putting cybersecurity as a top priority, and you would hope that the state government would be doing the same thing.
I tell you what, 2008, that's the day of the BlackBerry back then. I mean, this is crazy that we're that far behind. Terry, just before we go, a lot of polls around about Victoria. Some of them have got Brad Batten, opposition leader, ahead as preferred premier. The Libs are languishing. This one's interesting, though. This is about the suburban rail link, highly controversial in Victoria. The poll today says that 59% of Victorians say they either strongly support it or somewhat support it. But you dig a bit deeper, 78%, so almost 80% of people say, geez, we're worried about the state debt in Victoria. Well, when you consider this project is around $200 billion, it makes me pretty sceptical about the polling.
Well, I think that a lot of people don't actually understand the complexity of the suburban rail. If it sounds good, it sounds sexy, but really, when it comes down to it, we can't afford anything like it. And given that the cost seems to go up and up and up every 10 minutes in terms of estimates, I mean, enough said. Look, today I took my 6-year-old to the Science Works Museum down here in Melbourne, and we went through the gift shop, and she wanted to buy everything with a price tag, $50, $60. And I said, look, I don't have that kind of money. We can't afford to do this. This is exactly what a responsible, debt-minded government needs to do with not just Victorians, but with Australians in general, I think, to explain to them that you can only have so much, that free stuff actually has a price, because I think many voters simply aren't getting it.
I think a lot of my viewers would agree with you that the Labor Party in Victoria is like a greedy little 6-year-old, but we'll leave that there. Thank you both.